Greetings and salutations, everyone. Dan the Wolfman here, former MMA fighter turned actor, stuntman, turned armed security guy, and handgun terminal ballistics nerd. Does your caliber pass the bone tax? You don't know what that is? You better pay attention. Does it pass the angled bad guy tax? Does it pass the big guy tax? Does it pass the arms first tax? You're going to be surprised. It's not the movies, okay? Pistols are not rifles or shotguns. It's not the movies. It's not double tap and they drop like you're watching 24 or all the IDPA guys, okay? All pistols suck, but they don't suck equally. Real penetration needed by caliber. Clear ballistics does not matter. The only time clear ballistics is a little helpful is Gun Sam, because he added the 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard 3 inches in, or on my recommendation, Trigger Bar Philosopher added it 2 inches in and made like a Fackler style box. I also use double MDF for good reason in my modern meat target. So please subscribe to my ballistics playlist. That's why you're here. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, always comment on 2A channels, and look at my ballistics playlist and my Paul Harold tribute playlist and all my MMA jiu-jitsu. Please get competitive to street jiu-jitsu on BJJ Fanatics. It's the highest rated self-defense instructional, 4.5 hours long. I know what I'm talking about. I keep multiple attackers, weapons, hands that might grab weapons, your weapon, their weapon, and mine. So I suggest you get it. Okay, so mass and momentum really, really matter in the real world. And I've been telling you guys this. So I had a popular video, caliber doesn't matter for CCW, concealed carry, self-defense. I suggest you check that one out, and we're going to cover a whole lot more, and it's even worse than I thought. Okay, so not the movies, the double tap thing. I'm going to do like an IDPA style competition next week. GPA, Galaxy Pistol Association of the Galaxy, whatever. But I hate that it's double tap and they drop. It should be at least a triple tap. Okay? Or 2 and 1. But anyway, the survival rate of handguns, and you're not trying to kill people, you're trying to stop their deadly actions. But some of this knowledge matters to teach you guys this old FUD crap is crap. Watch some real self-defense footage. Watch active self-protection. Watch the other channels that do police shootouts. The survival rate of handguns, if you're shot 1 to 2 times, is 80 to 90%. If shot 3 or more times, it drops to 75 to 80%. Multiple gunshot wound mortality is only 18 to 22%. Obviously not as high with a 12 gauge with buckshot, not birdshot, you stupid fuds. Okay? If you're alive on arrival to the hospital, your survival rate is 70% plus. Pistols are not rifles or shotguns. All pistols suck. They don't all suck equally, but it's pretty bad. So let's get into it. All right, next up, guys, we're going to go into some real hardcore data, because when you shoot somebody, everyone's thinking that it's like their target on the static range. None of you are drawing, moving, training realistically or whatever, and they act like a bad guy is going to be a clear ballistics block that's 25% less dense than organic gel and has no water to compress directly forward. That's pretty unlikely, because if you're using deadly force, I got a feeling he's going like this, where he's bladed 30 to 45 degrees. Or maybe he's here and it has to go through his radius and ulna first. Or worse yet, it has to go through his humerus first. Okay? Or he's trying to stab you Halloween style. Might go through his elbow and maybe deflect with bone, which lighter weight, lighter powerful calibers definitely deflect, deform yaw after hitting bone. Which of course either misses the target completely or sends it skimming here and not in the upper thoracic cavity where they need to go. Basically a 4x6 or a 6x8. Some post-it notes are pretty good to train on, and Targets Online have awesome inner A zone and outer A zone, what I call the 5-point or the 4-point box, the A plus or the A box. That's really here, and really you want here though. Up to here is pretty effective, but not always. I've seen 3 shots active sub-protection, 2 in the head to the bad guy robbing him right next. Didn't drop the guy. Didn't hit the right part of the brain. It's not the movies, okay? I did the movies. It's not just bang, bang, and they drop suddenly like in 24. I've worked on that too. I was CTU, so listen to me. I was also a guest U SWAT school, so listen to me. I've had quite a bit of security other training. Listen to me. I just had a tail on me harassing me last Sunday night. You should listen to the things I say. Okay, so how do the calibers compare? We are going to look at the CDC average male size of 5 foot 9 inches, 199 pounds, and then a 6 foot to 6'4" combination muscle fat guy like me or Gun Sam, 250 pounds. And actually, we're probably a little bit bigger than that. So yes, that matters, okay? And if you're being stalked by a sumo, it matters even more. In one of my incidences, I did have a complete giant coming after me in the parking lot. Okay, so 380 versus 38 special versus 9mm versus 40 versus 45. What you need to understand is momentum matters. Mass matters. What really matters is retain momentum after going through stuff like barriers or arms. That happens a heck of a lot. And bone deflection is a thing, and you should definitely watch my No FMJ You Dumb Fuds video if, God forbid, you think that's the answer. It's not. Okay, and that's just going to deflect off bones on 380 FMJ, rides ribs. There's not a lot of great answers. Ogive matters. We'll get more into that. We'll get more into that later. Okay, so let's look at the smaller guy and then compare it later to the big guy. All right. So, we're going to look at 0-degree frontal shot. Whether it has to go through more tissue because it hits the pec, which will start to cause upset, meaning expansion, or it hits the sternum, which is harder bone than the rib, a little thicker, 0.4, maybe a big guy, a little bit bigger. That's why I use double MDF in my modern meat target. You should watch all those videos. But this is, hard. You're going to hit a rib. The intercostal space is 0.35. Guess what? 9mm is 0.355, so it's 380, okay? 9mm Makarov 9x18 is even a little bit bigger, okay? 40 is bigger, 45 is bigger, and you're hoping that it hits enough tissue and upsets and expands before hitting that bone, given you get enough penetration. So here, versus 45 degrees left, versus 45 degrees right. Why does that matter? Because while your heart's kind of more southern than most people think, it is off to the left a little bit. And if you got a transverse, even at a slight angle, trying to stab you through a pec, through a thoracic cavity, through tissue, it's much a farther depth of penetration needed, okay? So, cross-sectional thickness. Okay, there's more cross-sectional thickness, meaning directly through. You need to go through, obviously, if I'm standing this way, or God forbid, you're getting dueled, and it has to go through the arm and the shoulder bone. Yeah, you're effed, okay? So, in every caliber, the heavier the bullet, the more powerful the cartridge, the less organic gel it needs to go to, because it's kind of almost a one-to-one representation of dense muscle tissue. I look fat, but trust me, going through my thick shoulder, or like Miami Dade, I got a rifle going through my bicep first, and in, out, all that clothing here, and then through, might stop short of the heart. That was with a 9mm. Okay, 380 at front angle. So we got forward 45, right forward 45, left flank 90 degrees. Maybe I'm doing my car position. Right flank, maybe it's an English guy trying to cap you. I don't know. But yes, angles matter even as civilians, okay? You at least have to plan on some angle. So penetration does matter. Okay, and then an arm. Passing the bone test is huge, okay? If it's just ribs, meaning you're aiming someone's upper thoracic cavity and you did a good job, congratulations. Just a rib is 2 to 4.5 inches momentum robbed of organic gel penetration robbed. You have to subtract 2 to 4.5 inches depending on the caliber, the momentum, etc., the muzzle energy, etc. Momentum is more important there. Okay, so there's a rib tax. How about a bigger bone tax? So it's ribs and then sternums even more. And then Radius and ulna. As I said, if he's shooting you, it's going to probably go through his radius or ulna bone both. Okay? First, shooting you, weaver stance, God forbid. Okay? It has to penetrate through there first. How much does going through a radius and ulna? A lot. And God forbid it's the humerus, or even worse, this big ball joint socket. Okay? So, bone tax is anywhere from 10 to 45% of momentum robbed. It's 20 to 70% of kinetic energy robbed. And you guys just love your kinetic energy. That magical energy we talked about, my 357 mag, 357 sig. Maybe why did it work? Kind of hypothetical, but I give you science. Given more frontal shots and not obstructed and not through arms and not through vehicles, in the Magnum, not the SIG, those kinds of things. Okay, 20 to 70% kinetic energy robbed. On the 199 pound, not very muscular, just kind of typical fat American, 0 degrees angle, a 380 needs 8.5 inches of penetration. A 38 needs only 8 inches of organic gel penetration to get the depth to the heart. We're talking a depth to the heart. Your 2 to 6.5 inches needed more to reach my spine that's way in the back. Oh, that's not that much, but now I'm at an angle and now I'm sideways. In order to reach that spine, which is actually a shutdown CNS, that's what you need, is even more. And we're just going to the heart. So a 380, because it's a lower mass, so in the real body, it's going to lose its momentum, or retain momentum. That's probably how I like to say it. It's going to lose its retain momentum more going through a rib, because it's going to have to, at least partially, nick a rib. I mean, statistically, like 82%. If I'm side angle, maybe, and I'm breathing, exhaling, inhaling, maybe a little less, it might squeeze through in a magical world, but you got to plan on going through bone first, okay? 38 special, 8 inches, 9 millimeters, 7.5 inches, a 40 and a 45 have a mass. So this is how much organic gel penetration for that perfect frontal shot. So you 32 guys, oh my God, it expanded in a video just now, Gun Sam, so you should subscribe to him too. That's going to even be worse than the 380 because it's slightly bigger than they're given 50 expansion, 48 to 52 on the 380, 90 to 95 grain, and it's lighter weight, meaning it has a higher coefficient drag. Okay, it's going to lose its retained momentum faster. So pocket pistols are not great. Stop listening to Lucky Gunner shooting on a clear ballistics and making you think that 22 is just as good, man. It's just poking holes. It's just poking holes. You mean it's going to totally deflect off bone? It's going to ride ribs? 380 is the bare minimum. Maybe 32 and a bigger 32 with FMJ. And then you got the same 380 FMJ problems of maybe not straight on, but at any angle, it's likely to hit a rib, maybe incoming this way, and instead of going through maybe where it needs to go, to the heart, to the spine, it's going to then transverse on the outside of the ribs. 380 and under, this is very common. Stop watching TV. This is what law enforcement, long-time career investigators, murder investigators, inspectors, that's what the real dudes that really look and really did it say, okay? Okay, now if I'm left foot forward at only a 45-degree angle, for 380, 10 inches, 38 needs 9 inches, 9 millimeter needs 8.5, 40 and 45 only need 8 inches. Again, this is the 199-pound typical. Dense muscle is much harder to get through than fat adipose tissue, okay? How about right foot forward? 380 needs 12.5. We're talking hollow points here that expand. 380 needs 12.5. That's more than I thought. That's not a maybe uncommon. Maybe it's a right, someone's running at you to kill you, or, gangbangers sideways and shit. They're going to be in all kinds of crazy positions. A 380 needs 12.5 and to expand it to get there. Most of them are not going to go 12.5. I think we're lucky if we could get 10.5 from a longer barreled 380 in organic gel, or at least MDF in the clear ballistics with clothing, like 2-layer clothing for summertime. And even then, now I'm looking at the heavier 4-caliber Golden Saber, maybe better. Gun Sim's about to test the Ultimate Defense Compact Handgun, maybe better than the 85 grain punch. Momentum matters. Okay, 38, 11.5 inches, 9 millimeter needs 10.5, 40 needs 10, 45, because it's heavier at 230 grain. We're doing 165 to 180, 124 plus, or 135 plus, and we're doing 230 grain here. How about a left flank? 12.5, 11, basically no change other than the 45 a little bit. Right flank, 90 degrees. The 380 fails. The 380 fails if it happens to be a guy shooting at you like this. Okay, that's not awesome, guys. That's not awesome. So does your caliber live up to the bone test? Probably not, especially the itty bitty barrel 380s. Better than nothing, it's a noisemaker. Okay. 38 needs 17.5 inches. You're not getting expansion, and 17.5 inches of 38. So really the 38's a thing too. And don't talk to me about your super duper booper buffalo bore crap 38 lead hollow points that aren't really gonna, if it expands too much, it has too much coefficient drag, so it sucks and it's not going that deep. Okay, and the recoil, you're not gonna make hits, you're not gonna shoot it well. In a snub, I'm talking in a snub. I mean, the 4-inch barrel is different. 9mm, 15.5 inches. 40, 14.5 inches. 45 only needs 13.5 inches of comparable organic gel. So that's kind of mind-blowing. It's not all the same, and it's definitely not these numbers in clear ballistics. Wake up, people. Okay, what about through the front and arm? So let's say it has to go through here, or like here, it has to go through here and then enter my upper thoracic cavity. The lighter the bullet, and all you want my civil defense 50 grain, it's so fast, it's gonna be like a rifle, man. The disc's probably gonna be poking out the back of here, or it's gonna deflect off the bone at an angle, because angles matter. Angle of incidence equals angle of refraction. Go back to high school when they actually didn't just indoctrinate people. Pay attention, man. Go play some pool. Like, you don't think that the radius and ulna, and it might have to do both, is gonna deflect shit that's lighter weight? Okay, so front and arm, 380 fail. 38 would need 16.5, and expansion number is what we're looking at here. So that's a fail. 9mm needs 15 inches. That means already most 9mm have failed. I've always said I want 13.5 with the biggest expansion, like an HST, versus a critical duty 135 plus P, which their data is 15 inches and 52, which is more like 14 and 50. But most of 9mm are even a fail just from a frontal arm first, which is super common. To go through the arm, get into the, not just the lungs, but get to go deep enough to the heart. And the spine is way deeper, okay? So 9mm is already off. That's why 40 and 45 right there. That's kind of the main reason 14 inches and 13 inches only needed organic gel penetration with the 40 and the 45 because of mass, because of momentum. So in the real world, with these different elasticities in a heterogeneous organism, and the farther distance to have to do a transverse shot, depending on the angle, more and more and more and more and more. I'm trying to stab you, I'm trying to slash you, doing my Kali. Like, it might go through an arm first and it's going to be angle. Even if it didn't hit the arm, it's going to be having like enter here and transverse, or just behind the scapula bone. Like, it's going to have to go much farther. Okay, left forward and arm, fail, 18 inches, so that 9mm is a fail. 40, 16.5. There are 40s that will go 16.5 and moderate expansion. In fact, I just got one, and I kind of didn't, I always wanted the bigger expansion, but hey, maybe 45, 15.5. What would do that? Critical duty 220 plus P gets close. Probably the XDP plus P, maybe. So almost everything's in a real world actual fail, because they're not going to go that far in organic gel. Organic gel, not clear ballistics. Vista data, LE data, Federal, Spear data, Hornady data, sort of Winchester data, and actual old 80s and 90s FBI data that I have and I've done videos on. Left foot forward and arm, 45 degrees, fail, 19.5, 18, 16, 5. So most of those are a fail. Maybe the 40, maybe the 45 are still working where the 9mm, even nowadays, with the higher bullet technology, doesn't. I have the heavy clothing organic gel data, 13.5. I think maybe 14.5 to 147 grain, 14 with 124 plus P gold dot. That is as good as it gets. Okay, momentum matters. I'm just giving you the data. You make your choices. Okay. How about left foot and arm. Now the heart's a little closer, so it's not as bad. Fail, 21, 19.5, 18. So everything's probably failing other than a moderately expanded 45 to 30 grand, maybe a 200 plus P. Maybe. That's a big maybe. Right side, fail, 24.5. 24.5, you're like, maybe FMJ, maybe. But it's probably tumbling and just exiting out at the back, but maybe it gets deep enough. Does a hollow point that expands get that? No, because the coefficient drag. Okay. To go through an arm, again, let's reiterate this. To go through an arm is 4 to 7.5 inches of cross-sectional thickness. You got to go through an 18.5 inch bicep. When I'm trying to shoot you, you're robbing all, now with exit velocity is almost at like 50% of its original muzzle energy just by going through my bicep. So it robbed all the penetration into the upper thoracic cavity to get deep enough to the heart, and let alone the spine. Again, the spine is 2 to 6.8 inches if I was sideways, kind of here, and you're trying to get my spine farther back. So, forearm bones rob 4 to 6.5 inches. So just by going through an arm first, so you're looking at my 22 long rifle, it did really great. Gun Sam stuff, cool. Oh, that 32, man, it did so awesome. Now you old guys, my 32 H&R Magnum, man, awesome. Arm first and thoracic cavity. The arm first, the forearm bones 4 to 6.5 inches. So smaller guy, relaxed, but he's trying to kill you, so he's flexed. So that's 5.5. Bigger guy trying to kill you, that's up to 6.5 inches of organic gel penetration. Upper arm is anywhere from 6 to 9 plus inches of organic gel penetration. Some of you guys are like, well, 9 inches, that's good enough. I don't realize someone's that deep. Okay, this was on the small guy. The aorta is 8 to 15 seconds if you shoot someone on the aorta. 8 to 15 seconds till they lose enough BP, they probably at least bend over or fall down and stop trying to kill you. And I've talked about BP shock recovery because of blood loss, total wound volume, and other videos. Bigger, pull, faster, leaker, better overall. Of course, you got to put them where they need to go to. The superior vena cava is 15 to 30 seconds, and there's a few other ones up here that are anywhere between 10 and 40 seconds. So even if you shoot someone a whole bunch, and that's another reason you got to shoot people a whole bunch, not just miss. Only 20% hits in law enforcement, and you're magically going to do better. And I'm going to shoot them in the eyeball with my 22. My tiny little 22 that you can't grip, draw, aim, tiny sights, manipulate, drop the magazine. Yeah, sure, buddy, in your first ever gunfight. Okay, sure, you're going to shoot them in the eyeball. Okay? The bigger guy. Let's compare, just quickly, I'll try to wrap up. I'm not going to go through all of them all. Bigger guy versus smaller guy. So, Gun Sam, my size, even worse, sumo or reacher. Look at these numbers compared to these numbers. Instead of 8.5, we're at 10 inches with the 380. Right forward, we're at 14.5 instead of 12.5. With the fail. Look at all these fails. Fail. Just by going from 199 to 250 pounds and a little bit of muscle, fails, depending on angle. Okay, so really, screenshot this data. Here's the small guy. Screenshot it. No one else is going to do this for you. It took 7 hours. So please thumbs up and subscribe and comment all the time. Here's the large guy data. Okay, compare them both. There's quite a few more inches of penetration needed on the large guy depending on the angle. You start making the angle worse or through a arm first. On a bigger guy with more muscle, it's a lot more penetration needed to get to the heart. Now, I did do the data on copper-plated wad cutters. I feel pretty good, and this was with 120 plus P to 130 plus P hollow points, which are really where I recommend. I recommend 120 plus P punch, if it's big box store cheap, probably going to do the job, probably. 125 plus P covert X looks real promising. 130 plus P Ranger, always a huge expander, just like 11.7 inches of heavy clothing organic gel penetration. So a little shyer on the penetration with the more expansion. Same thing with your super duper or Magnum 357 velocity, 38 plus P plus cartridges. Okay, and you're not going to shoot them well, and that sucks. But it's going to get bigger and more drag, okay? But I did do 38 special, 148 grain copper-plated wad cutters. Why? Because the full wad cutter gets full value. I talked about McPherson values in that No FMJ, you dumb fuds video, okay? Full value, but especially copper plated, you're getting excellent penetration, biting into the bone, and no bone deflection. Even 380, I might go to the PPU because we don't know if it expands really, because clear ballistics is different than organic gel, but maybe a non-expanded jacketed hollow point is better than FMJ. Why? Because you hit an angle on the rib, the FMJ is going to ricochet off or ride the ribs all around the body under the skin, versus a hollow point that doesn't expand. Number one, it does 16% more damage, tissue damage, total wound volume, and more importantly, it bites into the bone. Full wad cutters do that, and even unexpanded JHPs are going to do that better than FMJ. Okay, this is kind of amazing. Penetration is in 6 different mathematical formulas, plus I've tested it and Gunsam has tested. Copper-plated wad cutters, low velocity, 7 to 750 feet per second. Approximately 18 to 21 inches of organic penetration. Average is probably 19, so this doesn't even fail at 23. It is going to fail at 26.5 because it's not going to get that deep on a guy like this. Lost the steam, lost the too much momentum. Really, the muzzle energy is getting too low to go through this stuff. But that really is going to do it. Now, is it going to stop a guy with a frontal chest shot as big as a short neck expander? No. Look at my 357 mag, 357 sig video, why it works, and plus P plus, 9B PLE. That shit works great if it is a frontal shot. However, if you just destroy the bicep, you're like, well, then the guy's done. Well, no, he might fucking still shoot you, okay? It has to be able to go through and get to the goodies, the pipes, the plumbing, the timers and switches. That's what it needs. And so, yeah, your caliber does not live up to the bone test. Okay, so I'm very happy that Gunsam put the 1/4 inch MDF in there. I would prefer 2. Okay, and other people, I'm very happy that people like Trigger Bar Philosopher does that. Arizona Air Gunner using organic gel, awesome. Discreet Defense, organic gel, awesome. It has to be calibrated in temperature, and it's not perfect with YouTubers, but we're getting closer. And look at my modern meat target, because I correlated it across calibers, which clear ballistics data, Lucky Gunner data, that doesn't do. It makes the tiny little pew-pews look way better, penetrate way farther than they really would. This shows the difference in caliber, energy, and momentum, especially particularly retained momentum, okay, after going through more tissue or through bone first, which robs about 50%. So, your little itty-bitty pew-pew, or your little 32 guys, or your little 22 long rifles, just as good, guys, with your lead easily deformed bullets that are now going to yaw and have complete amount of drag and go like 3.5 inches into somebody. But it might kill you if you're trying to assassinate someone through the eyeball, which you're not going to be able to do in a defensive gun use. So it's not the fucking movies. Pistols are not over 30 caliber rifles with actual bullets that will expand or yaw in short enough depth to not just zip through, or 12 gauge with number 1 preferably, or double aught buckshot. Reduce recoil if that makes your hits better. Nothing, no pistol is a shotgun. All pistols sucks, but they don't suck equally. Now, I do carry a 9mm most of the time. But on duty use, I'm using 124 plus P plus gold dots. Hard bullets that aren't going to deflect, and they're going to go deep, and they're going to do the job. I would prefer that I had a 40, that I had bought this pistol in a 40, but I digress. For carry, I wish I was carrying 40 or 45 all the time. It's just you're very limited in choices to get enough capacity and not have too much weight on the hips with my broken down body. So, everything is a trade-off, but yes, you need capacity, because people don't just drop in 2 unless you got very lucky and hit the upper CNS, okay? And even headshots with lead bullets and even lead hollow points, and definitely lead round nose, they will hit it. It's not always this, it's a little bit of this, and they're going to skim on the outside of the skull and be found under the back skin. Maybe you knock them out, and then he tries to kill you later, okay? Angles matter. Angle of incidence equals angle of refraction. Bullets that need a bite in a bone, meaning hard cast, copper-plated full wad cutters, or good duty-grade jacketed hollow points, HST, gold dot, critical duty, a plus P XTP, or, I really like punch, though it is softer lead, but that's going to work for most civilians. But again, you're going to have problems with a big guy if I happen to have my arm in the way first. So, That's why real penetration is needed. The FBI wasn't that wrong. I said 10.5 is probably enough for civilian defensive gun use, but look at the failure rate. It's about minimizing the failure rate. Please thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below, look at my playlist. Kaboom.